Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Raja Umar on my channel RU Speaks, and as we are discussing the geography of Pakistan these days, and we are towards the end of unit number 3, that is the water sources, the issue of sustainability, and inshallah we're going to start the history lessons from tomorrow onwards for 1 week, and then we will move on in this way that on one day we will have the history lesson and the other day geography lesson. I mean, we will be having the history and geography lessons on the alternative days. So this is how we will move on. Do not forget to subscribe RU Speaks, Raja Umar Speaks for you for the subject of Pakistan studies and global perspectives. So as we are moving towards the end of unit number 3, water sources, we're going to start today's lesson, and here we are, the siltation in our dams, and this is an issue that Pakistan is facing these days. And whenever I ask you people to discuss any of the issues, what was the formula? It was 3C formula, that we are supposed to talk about the causes, effects, I mean the consequences, and the control, that how to overcome that issue. So here we see that first of all we are supposed to talk about that what is meant by the term siltation. Siltation means the water, whenever the water flows downstream to the plain areas from the mountainous regions, what happens that because of the erosion activity, the soil particles and pebbles, gravel, boulder, and many other things, they get eroded from those mountainous regions, and they flow along with the river, and ultimately they become the very fine soil particles, and they settle down in water whenever the water pace decreases in the plain areas of Pakistan. So this is the issue, that this siltation is creating a lot of problems for Pakistan in the form of the low water capacity in our dams and canals, making agricultural activity difficult, making the industrial activity difficult, making the decline in the hydroelectric power generation in Pakistan. So we are going to talk about the causes and consequences. Whatever I'm talking right now, they all are given over here in these points. Let's discuss all these points over here. So number one, this is the soil erosion from the northern mountains. As I'm telling you that whenever the water flows down the stream, as you know that there is the greater gradient, I mean the slope of the land over there in the mountainous region, the water rushes down and it erodes a lot of soil and particles over there alongside. So increases the soil erosion activity. So that leads to the siltation issue. Then why this soil erosion activity occurs? That is because of the deforestation. Whenever the trees are cut down on the foothills of Himalayas and Karakoram ranges, and even on the Hindu Kush range, what happens that the soil becomes loose, and this loose soil gets eroded, can be eroded really very easily whenever there is the water rushes down, I mean the surface runoff. So the steep slopes in river path increases the erosion, and eventually they convert into silt. Silt means very fine soil particles. Very fine soil particles, and those particles are an issue for Pakistan. Whenever these soil particles, they come down to the plain areas, they settle down at the base of the dam or at the base of the river or canal, decreasing the water capacity in those, and that creates a greater issue for the agricultural sector of Pakistan. Now talking about the effects, accumulation causes canal blockage. Yes, whenever a lot of silt settles down at the base of the canal, definitely this chokes the canal, and water is unable to reach out to the far off areas, and those areas they remain thirsty for water, and agricultural activity cannot take place over there in those areas where water does not reach, just because of the greater silt accumulation in the dams and in the canals, and canals have got blocked just because of that silt. So weakens the dam foundation. Base of the dam got weakened. I mean, if I say, if this is the dam wall, this is the water level over here, and here the river comes, and this is the depth of the reservoir. If a lot of silt is coming along the river water, and this silt settles down at the base of the dam, the base of the dam might get weakened, and this will be a greater issue, and God forbid this might lead to the collapse of the main dam. So this is a big issue, that it weakens the foundation or the base of the dam. This is very dangerous it is. Reduces dam water capacity. And now you can see that, as I have drawn over here, the depth of the dam. This is the depth of the dam. When there was no silt, the water capacity was this much, the depth. But when the silt came, because of the deforestation activity and because of the greater soil erosion activity, here all we see that the silt got accumulated and the water capacity remained very low, and less water is available. Now this less water is for less agricultural activity, less hydroelectric power generation, and this will lead to the further issues for Pakistan. So reduces dam water capacity. This is I have explained. Reduces agricultural yield, and whenever there is the less water, it means that less water would be supplied to the crops, and the agricultural yield would decline, and it might lead to the crop failure in some cases. So less hydroelectric power generation. When less water is there, definitely the less power will be supplied to the powerhouse, and there might be the issues. For example, if I talk about the example of Tarbela Dam, there are 9 turbines over there working for the hydroelectric power generation. But if there is not sufficient water available, what would happen? That there would be only 4 or 5 turbines might be working, generating less power for Pakistan. That might be leading to the load shedding, and less electricity supply to the households and to the industries, leading to the decline in the industrial production, and that may go really very far in decline of the exports and towards the decline of economy. So flooding in plains. Whenever this dam is filled with silt to the half, definitely whenever there would be more rainfall or more melting of snow from the glaciers, the dam would get filled up really very quickly, because having less capacity, the spillways would be open, and this might lead to the flooding in the low-lying areas really very quickly, because the dam carries really less water, and that would not be able to absorb sufficient water of the canals, or of the rainfall, or of the melting of snow. In the same way, when this water will go into the canals they will be already filled up with the silt, and canals would not be able to carry on the enough water in them, so they will overflow and they will destroy the surrounding areas crops. So that flooding would be really very much disastrous for the agriculture, and these are the facts. You might be getting the questions related to causes, that what are the causes of siltation. So you are supposed to explain deforestation factor, soil erosion factor, and you can talk about that because of the gradient, the slope factor. So 3 factors you can explain for the sake of explaining the causes of siltation in our dams and canals. Number 1, soil erosion. Number 2, deforestation. Number 3, the gradient and the slope of the water as it rushes down because of the greater slope. In the same way, if we talk about, if you get the questions, explain the harmful impact or effects or the causes or the consequences of siltation, then you are supposed to talk about that canal blockage, and then you are supposed to talk about the weakening of the foundation of the dam. You can talk about the reduction in the water capacity of dams and canals and barrages. and you can talk about the reduction in the crop yield, you can talk about the less hydroelectric power generation, and you can talk about the flooding effect of the siltation. So if the question comes of 4 marks, I mean if it is a question of description, describe, 3 marks question, you are supposed to simply mention 3 points out of these to respond to this question of description. But if the question is related to explain, then you are supposed to take any 2 of the points from this list and you are supposed to explain them, 2 points, to develop them, and in this way 1 mark for mentioning the point and 1 mark for explaining, and then 1 mark for the other points mentioning and 1 mark for the explanation of that point. So in this way 4 marks would be over there for this one. So in this question you are surely supposed to develop your answer. So that development needs the explanation. So do not forget to explain the point you are explaining. For example, if I say, if I'm going to explain point number 1, it might be linked with the point number 2 and 3 as well. So if I explain point number 1, first I will mention it. For example, if I get the question that explain the effects of siltation in Pakistani dams, you should develop your answer. If this is the question, I would explain, because of the higher level of siltation in our waters or on the mountainous regions, there would be the accumulation of silt in our dams and canals that might lead to the blockage of canals. So sufficient water will not be able to reach out the fields for irrigation, and this might lead to the decline in the agricultural yield. This is how I have developed the point. Secondly, I would say that because of the siltation in our dams, this might decrease the capacity of water. This would lead to the less hydroelectric power generation, or this might lead to, if I add up another point over here, this might lead to the less electricity available for industries, leading to the less agricultural production. So that is the development. This is how you are supposed to develop certain points to reach out that level to gain 4 marks out of 4 in the question of explanation. Now talking about the control, that how you can control the issue of siltation. Large scale afforestation at foothills of Himalaya. So it is the issue that Himalayan region is badly affected by deforestation. If we launch a massive afforestation campaigns over there on the foothills of Himalayas, we can have the soil holding force in the form of the trees available over there that would decrease the soil erosion, and that erosion would decrease the siltation, and the issue would be resolved to some extent. Then concrete embankments of canals. I mean, the canals should be lined so that there should be no erosion from the canal bank. At times it happens that the canal gets eroded because of the water pressure, and the canal edges, they fall into the canal and they settle down at the bottom, decreasing the water capacity in that canal. That is also silt. So silt traps before the reservoir. As I was explaining before, if this is the dam and this is the height of the dam, and here is the depth of the dam reservoir, and here is the river channel coming this way, we can install silt traps over here so that the silt should not be entering into the main dam and not settling down at the bottom of the dam, and we can remove that silt from here. Just like filters, you may say that we may install certain filters over here to desilt water and then to release that water into the main dam. Then increasing dam height. If this much is the siltation over here in this dam, we may increase the height of the dam so that we can be able to increase the capacity of water over here in this dam. As we know that about few months back, a year back about, the fourth project completed of Tarbela Dam raising project. They have raised the height of Tarbela Dam for the fourth time since it has started production in 1972. So by increasing the dam height, we may be able to restore the height of the dam by increasing the water capacity in that dam. So then operating at lower level during floods to avoid silt. Lower level, it means that the lower gates should be really very effective, that whenever we are operating the water release from the dam at the lower level during the flooding season, July, August, monsoon season, when we have the snow melting as well, the water would be released from the lower part of the lake. Let me explain it better. If this is the dam and here are the spillways over here, and here is the silt over here at the base of the dam, this is the height of the dam, this whole one is silt. If we flow the water from the lower gates, this water will take silt along with, would be decreasing the less silt remaining over there in that dam. So in this way, what would happen, that the silt would decrease to this much, and it means that because of that factor there is the water capacity restored to some extent. So this is how you can control. Again, you might be getting the 3 marks question or 4 marks question out of this one. Again, you are supposed to develop them as I have explained for the point of effects. So how can the issue of siltation be resolved? Develop your answer. So then you are supposed to explain these points as I explained these ones for the sake of responding to the question. So this is how the issue of siltation. Now moving on to the next one, that is the issue of waterlogging and salinity. First of all, what is that? What is waterlogging? Whenever the water table rises to such an extent that the water comes really very closer to the surface of the earth. For example, if this is the land and the water table rises closer to the surface, this one is water table, this one is land. So you will not be able to grow crops over here, as the roots of the crop would be dipped up into that water, and they will get rot, and the crop failure would increase, and it means that water logging is really very much dangerous. What happens in the intensified form, that the water comes over the surface, it rises to so much, the water table rises so much that it comes really very closer or even over the surface of the earth, and the land gets wet or damp. And what happens, that the because of the heat of the sun, the water evaporates, but leaving a layer of salt on the land surface. That is what we call salinity. Saline means salt, right? Waterlogging, high water table. High water table is waterlogging, and its intensified form is salinity, that is the salt layer that accumulates over the surface of the earth, making those lands useless. So most of the time I say waterlogging and salinity, they are the land diseases. Land becomes diseased and it becomes useless for carrying out agricultural activity over there. And even not even the industries cannot be established, that whenever the land is dug out for the sake of constructing the infrastructure of that industry, there would be water, and really very damp underneath would not be suitable to have the construction over there, the solid construction. So how to overcome waterlogging and salinity? If we lined our canals, if this is the depth of the canal, we are supposed to have the concrete lining, even the base because most of the time what we see that the water logging is done because of the seepage of water from canals on the both sides. If the canals are unlined, if the canals are kachi canals, then the water would be seeped out and it would become the lands waterlogged. But if we spend a lot of money on the lining of canals, then we will be able to save water, we will be able to save our lands, seepage would not be done, and the lands would remain effective, remain useful, remain beneficial for Pakistan. Canal closure. We may we may close the canals when there is no you can say need of water in the canals. We may close down the canals for some time, and at times we close down the canals during the winter season when there is the less river discharge. So planting eucalyptus trees in those areas where there is water logging. Eucalyptus trees, they consume a lot of water. It is said that a 20 feet tall eucalyptus tree consumes 35 gallons of water per day. So all those areas which have become waterlogged, eucalyptus trees can be really very much a greater sort of remedy to protect their land from being waterlogged, and waterlogging would be over. And when the water table gets decreased because of eucalyptus trees, we can cut down those eucalyptus trees and we can consume that land for agricultural activity. We can install tube wells over there to pull out sufficient amount of water from the waterlogged areas, and the water table would get lower and the lands can be used for agriculture. Surface drains. As you know that, as I told that because of the factor of salinity, there would be the layer of salt over there on the land, making that land useless. If we install a tube well over here and we flushing out those salts, and surface drains can be done, washing out that land with the help of that water which we are pulling from the tube well, and that water can be can be moved towards some canal or some other water channel. In this way, the lands would get out of that issue of waterlogging and salinity and can be utilized for agricultural activities. This is how the issue of waterlogging can be resolved. And now, reasons of water pollution, quite an easier topic. Many of you already know about it, that industrial discharge in rivers and streams making the water contamination, agricultural dumping, that also leads to the water pollution, inadequate disposal system of certain chemicals or certain industrial waste, that leads to the water pollution. Underdeveloped sewage system of the cities, urban cities, they are really very much badly managed in the form of the sewage system, leading to the water pollution over here. Then oil seepages from ships at Karachi ports, they lead to the marine water pollution, and excess use of chemical fertilizers. Whenever we want to grow more and more crops, we apply chemical fertilizers over there. Those chemical fertilizers are absorbed into the soil with the help of irrigation and they contaminate the underground water. So this is a big issue. Management of water sources. What we want to do, desiltation of canals regularly. We are supposed to shut down the canals during the winter season and to remove the silt out of the canals to increase the canal capacity again back to the same point, and if sufficient water is available, far off lands can be irrigated with the help of that water. But if there is silt, there will be less water, less area irrigation would be done. Just distribution of water among the provinces, that whichever province has the sufficient lands for agriculture, those provinces should be getting enough water for irrigation, and those provinces having less land should be given less water from the rivers and canals. Implementation of Water Accord of 1991, as I told you the other day, that is IRSA Accord, Indus River System Authority Accord, that can be used of 1991 to have the just distribution of water for the provinces. Drought management, we are supposed to have the drought management. We are supposed to sow such types of seeds which are really drought resistant, consuming less water, so that if there is less water availability because of the siltation and water pollution, that those seed varieties cannot be affected by the less water availability. Increased efficiency of IRSA, again explained Industrial System Authority. Construction of dams on emergency basis. We are supposed to manage the water resources in the best possible way. National priorities to maximize the agricultural yield. For that sake, we are supposed to manage the water sources really very well. To launch small dams project to store excess water of monsoon. If we are unable to construct big dams like Mangla Tarbela, we can launch smaller dam projects in the northern areas, very especially the Hindu Kush and Himalayan region. Those projects will be completed within 2 years, and they will be able to store sufficient water for rabi crop and protecting the lands from flooding during the monsoon season. Concrete canal lining to avoid seepage to overcome the issue of waterlogging and salinity. Rivers and lakes should not be used as dumping sites to prevent water pollution, and to switch to natural fertilizers and avoid using chemical fertilizers, so that the underground water should not get contaminated because of the excessive use of chemical fertilizers. To launch educational and informational programs, I mean the awareness campaigns, to have the proper awareness among the people. So this is how we have come up to the end of this unit, water sources. And do not forget to subscribe. RU Speaks, Raja Amar Speaks for you. And this is all for today. Inshallah, in the next lesson, we'll talk about the history lessons now. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.